Storytime about how I crashed my ex's wedding and managed to break them up a month later. I'm definitely toxic and vindictive. So when my boyfriend broke up with me, I knew what I had to do. He and I dated for 9 months. And you could say that I was a little overbearing. If you guys saw what this man looked like, maybe you'd understand. He's the type of guy that all the girls want to get with. Not only is he super handsome, but he's also very successful. And he's a great guy. Comes from a great family and he's really close to them. I, on the other hand, grew up in the foster system, so having a family was always my biggest dream. And when I met his family, they took me in right away. His mom and I essentially became best friends. His dad would take me out to dinners and lunch, and they basically adopted me as their daughter. Here's when things started going wrong. I was extremely jealous and I basically didn't let him do anything. Every time he wanted to go out with his friends, I would start a fight. Anytime he would bring up a female friend from the past, I would simply threaten to break up with him. Trust me, I recognized that what I was doing was wrong, but part of me just couldn't control myself. I was willing to do anything to make him stay with me. Eventually, he got really sick of me, started mentioning that he wanted to take a break. So that's when I told him that I was pregnant. Was I pregnant? Absolutely not. Part 2 is up. Storytime about how I crashed my ex's wedding and managed to break them up a month later. The first time he threatened to break up with me, I told him that I was pregnant. It was obviously a lie and he knew it, so he basically still walked out on me. So in order to get his attention again, I decided to go to his family and tell them that I was pregnant. And they all believed me. His mom and dad even invited me to go live with them during the pregnancy. At first I said yes, but then I was like, hold on a second. How am I gonna fake a pregnancy? So to get myself out of that, I told him that I thought I was pregnant, but I actually wasn't. Yep, I'm starting my makeup all over again at this point. I had way too many layers on. During the time we were on a break, I basically followed him around everywhere just to make sure that he wasn't hooking up with any girls. Finally, 2 weeks later, he called me and told me that he missed me. We got back together, but the same thing happened. I was still jealous and controlling, but this time he was becoming more and more jealous. So much so that he started trying to control the way that I was dressing. Around this time, we started having huge fights. He would punch the wall right by my head. I would throw things at him, even threw a knife at him once. But part of me liked that he was so jealous and toxic. He was obsessed with me. And he broke up with me again, and 2 months later, he was engaged. And guess what? His family invited me to their engagement party. Part 3 is up. Storytime about how I crashed my ex's wedding and managed to break them up a month later. That's when I get the invitation for his engagement party. At this point, it seems that my ex's parents thought we separated on good terms. So of course, I showed up to that engagement party. As soon as my ex saw me, he came straight to me and told me to leave. And I told him that I was welcome because his parents had invited me. He gave me a whole speech about how we were over and I needed to accept it. But of course, not one single part of me was willing to accept that. Then he called me an Uber, so I actually did end up leaving. When the wedding comes around, I was the first guest to show up. As soon as his parents saw me, they welcomed me. So I went and sat down at the parents' table. When my ex came out, he nearly fell over. Mind you, this is the first time I'm meeting his wife. I went up to her and told her that I was an ex of his. That's when she looked at me and said, when did you guys date? I said we dated for 9 months. And then she says that they had been dating at the same time. So then a whole bunch of drama goes down. She goes to him and starts slapping him. He starts to cry. And then his parents asked me to leave. So I did. The next month, I followed her everywhere. Finally told me to leave her alone and that they had already gotten a divorce. So my plan worked. Now I'm trying to figure out how to get back with my ex. What should I do?
Am I the asshole for telling our neighborhood about my neighbor spying on my wife? My wife and I bought my grandparents' house a year ago. It's a good home in a good neighborhood with a pool. I'm an architect and my wife is an interior designer, so we did do some works around the house. Neighbor in question is neighbor A and the other is B. The pool is closer to neighbor B in the backyard, so we decided to put a sliding lattice wall. We also recessed the pool area. I did this because sometimes my wife likes to tan and swim topless. Days ago, we were chilling at the pool and my wife took off her top and we were canoodling. But nothing crazy. A neighbor told us this is a family neighborhood and we do better to keep that in mind because A saw us last night. Am I the asshole for telling people in our neighborhood about my neighbor spying on my wife? That was odd because she had to stand at the very end of her property and because of her height, get in something. We shut our mouth, but 5 days ago when I came home from work, my wife was out having a discussion with our neighbors. It turns out the lady caught her husband watching my wife the second time and was calling her names. I sent them home threatening to call the police if we caught the husband doing that. I guess the lady wanted to spread the word before we did to save face and told a few of her neighbors about my wife being indecent. So I went out of my way too. I told her friends in the neighborhood what her husband did to my wife. And now they're casting her out. Am I the asshole for calling my friend irresponsible for what she did while babysitting my child? I, 29 female, have a phobia of horses. I don't like being around them and I have no interest in petting or riding them. When I was 8, a horse attacked me unprovoked and nearly killed me and I was hospitalized. My best friend Eliza, female 29, is the opposite. In high school, she was your stereotypical horse girl. Now she owns some of her own horses and I don't interact with them. On to the issue. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and Eliza occasionally kindly offers to babysit. She has her own daughter of similar age, and they play nice together. Well, last week I asked Eliza to babysit for me. Am I the asshole for calling my friend irresponsible for what she did while babysitting my child? When I picked Tanya up, she was telling me how she sat on a horsey. At first I thought she was talking about a rocking horse, but then she told me how she fed the horsey some apples. I called Eliza and asked if she had my daughter interact with her horses. At first, Eliza denied everything until I told her Tanya told me. Eliza went on about how safe it is and that she's in complete control of the situation. I told Eliza what she did was irresponsible and doing it behind my back was unacceptable. I was so angry and uncomfortable, and she said I'm overreacting because of my phobia. My family thinks I overreacted.
I, 42 male, said something absolutely unforgivable to my daughter, 15-year-old female. I am a single father raising one daughter. My wife died in childbirth. I held it against my daughter, but eventually realized it was irrational of me to act that way. I thought I left it all behind me. I've been distant and dismissive lately, I'll admit. I've been going through a lot and I've been weak. I know that's not what she needs. I'm a bad father. My daughter came home late one night and I had been drinking a lot and was expecting to be passed out before she got back. She came home visibly upset. I asked her what was wrong, but she wouldn't tell me. She told me that I wouldn't understand and at times like this, she needs a mom. She turned around and started going upstairs and I said under my breath, "Well, you killed yours." And I know she heard me, but she didn't turn around and say anything. She just ran up the stairs and slammed her door. Yo, that is fudged up. Why would you say that? That's like dark humor, but not humor. That's just dark. That's just mean. I shouted after her that I didn't mean it, but obviously she didn't respond. Never in all of her life have I said anything close to that. All I did was love and protect her, but this moment of weakness just came out. I don't know what to do or say at this point. It's been a day since she's talked to me, and I've never had to deal with anything like this before. I feel like I've permanently messed up my relationship. What can I do? Honestly, when you say things like that, especially as a dad, it's very little or no going back from that, because when people tell you how do I say this? Like, the fact that you could say that so easily means you believe it, right? It's not a moment of weakness. I don't like you blaming the alcohol or things like that. Like, that is like, am I wrong for being upset at my husband for what he got me for my birthday? You cannot be, okay, birthday gifts are a privilege. You are not allowed to be picky about what anyone gets you because you don't deserve shit. But that being said, my 39th birthday was last week. And you're 39? Oh my God, like, calm down. Like, all the gifts you could ever want, you've already gotten. Like, what's the problem? Months ago, I was talking with my mom about a part of our state that I love to visit, and she mentioned that she has never been there. I told her we should go together sometime, and we started planning it. We ended up deciding on going there for my birthday. During the planning, we realized that my mom, my brother, and I have never been on a trip together, just the three of us. So we invited my brother too. My husband was fully supportive of us taking this trip, and we'll be staying home with our 3-year-old son and our dog. Before we left last week, my husband gave me the gifts he bought me for my birthday. He got me some comfy pajamas, a sun hat, and some good wine and cheese to bring with me on the trip. Normally, I would be totally okay with that gift as we don't really splurge on birthday gifts anymore. But he had been talking about getting me a smartwatch and a new luggage for my trip ever since we started planning it. He knows I can be kind of picky about gifts, as I have exchanged some of the gifts he's got me in the past for different colors or options. But this time I told him to just pick something out for me as I want those things for the trip. He offered instead to go shopping with me so that I could pick out exactly what I want, because if I take them on the trip and don't like them, it's not likely I could return or exchange them. I thought that was a good idea, but life got busy, and before I knew it, it was a week before our trip and we hadn't had a chance to actually go shopping together. So the time comes for us to leave, and part of me was expecting my husband to surprise me with a new watch or weekend bag, but he didn't. I admit that I was pretty disappointed that he didn't take the initiative to just get me the things on his own. I tried not to let it bother me during the trip, but it was always kind of in the back of my mind. After we got back, I mentioned to him that I was disappointed that he didn't get me the watch and bag like he said he would. He told me that he thought we had agreed to do it together, but I told him he knew how busy we were and it wouldn't have been much effort for him to just do it on his own. He got offended and told me that I just spent thousands of dollars on a nice, relaxing trip with my family while he stayed home and took care of everything, and I'm complaining about a watch and a bag. He's right. Like, how spoiled do you sound? You just went there for your birthday and you're complaining about a watch and a bag. Go buy that shit yourself. Like, what's wrong with you? I told him that he knew how much I was looking forward to having those items for my trip, and I'm just disappointed that he didn't realize that and take the opportunity to do something special for me. Oh, boo-hoo, cry me a river. He apologized for ruining my trip, but I know it wasn't sincere, and he's just telling me what he thinks I want to hear. Oh my God, you're so annoying. I offered to go shopping with him sometime to pick them out, and he told me to just go do it myself. Now I feel like crap, and I know he's mad at me for being ungrateful for the things he did get me and for allowing me to have the opportunity to have a trip like that with my family. Oh my God, there's a comment on here that they're making someone. Oh, there's, and then she has a comment on here because someone was calling. Okay, there's a comment on here calling her a privileged brat, and she responds back, I make more money than he does. Then go buy your own damn watch and bag.
Am I wrong for literally showing my dad how he behaves every day when he gets home from work? I, female 16, have a father 46 who is the breadwinner while my mom is a stay-at-home mom. She handles everything around the house like cooking, mopping, washing, laundry, etc. I'm the oldest and I try to help, but there's really only so much that I can do while my dad just gets home at the end of the day and literally complains about everything, like how the carpet isn't clean or how the food is cold. As a result, I'd have to listen to huge arguments daily between him and my mom. It's exhausting, but honestly, I think my dad is just in the wrong here. I tried talking to him to get him to see his behavior, but to no avail. So what I did was pick a day off for him and pretend to act like him. I put together an outfit that looked like a suit and put black tape over my lips to look like a mustache. At 6 p.m., I went inside the house. I shouted, I'm home! Then sat next to him in the living room and started kicking my shoes while complaining about the state of the house at the top of my lungs. He glanced at me confused, asking what I was doing. I ignored him, then started yelling about the carpet being dirty, shower not ready, and the kids needing to be quiet and so on. He kept staring while my mom and siblings laughed. My youngest brother pointed towards me saying, this is daddy. I then proceeded to yell about dinner, then berated my mom for not preparing it before time. My dad stopped me in a serious tone and asked what I was doing. I turned to him and said, what? Can't a man effing rest after working long hours? In the most macho voice I could muster. My dad got the hint because this was a common phrase he uses daily. He went quiet and avoided looking at me. I stopped the acting and I told him that I was trying to show him what he's like every day when he comes home from work. He said nothing, just went outside and refused to speak to me. Later, he went on about how I mocked and invalidated him, that he does work hard and me doing this was disrespectful and invalidating. My mom said it was funny, but also thought that I hurt my dad's feelings and I could have gotten the message across in some other way. So, am I in the wrong here?